Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin, and we're getting closer to the election. We got a lot to talk about, but I also want to congratulate you on the success of your book.
Thank you. Yes, Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 14, that I did in conjunction with a number of authors, but most prominently Jim Britt and Brian Tracy. Hit the bestseller list on Amazon in several countries, and I am very happy about this.
Well, congratulations. No one deserves it more, and I'm sure that it's going to have continued success. But speaking of maybe a lack of success, now let me ask you a question, Dr. Lopkin. Now that amazing you still talk to me, being now famous. But anyway, I'll take that as a compliment. Um, have you ever seen anyone? I've never seen anyone plummet faster than Ms. Harris. She went just last week when we did our podcast. She was ahead in the betting odds. I think she's like almost 20 points behind in the betting odds, not in the polls. And this is just a conglomeration of things. Basically, predictions or betting odds on the Electoral College is 306, 206. Have you ever seen anyone plunge farther, faster than Mamala?
I haven't, but well, possibly Biden himself after the debate, but
Okay, I'll give you that.
it's not just the betting odds. NBC News came out with a poll this past weekend that has Trump up. And that same poll 1 month earlier had Harris up by 5 points. So it was a big swing. I think what we're seeing is that Harris's people actually knew what they were doing, keeping her away from the media. Because
100. No, wait. Let me hold on. 100%. Because yes, you would take some battle damage. You know, you're hiding in the basement. I really believe that that was the best strategy. Take a little, punching, to the gut maybe, but not the knockout punch. So let me ask you, Dr. Lockton, then why is she doing the Fox News interview with Brett Baer
I,
after having just done a word salad with Charlemagne the God?
yeah,
I like incoherent.
well, I think there's two parts to why she's doing Fox. One, Fox's audience is actually very broad. They have, of all of the news stations, news networks, the largest independent voting bloc as part of their viewership. And she needs that to be able to win. So she has to reach out to these people. And she clearly hasn't been able to reach them. The second thing is, I don't think that she is coherent enough to realize how badly she's doing in these interviews.
Yeah, but
I
her handlers are.
Yeah, but the handlers at this point, their hands are tied. I mean, they're facing criticism from by keeping her out, and they're facing criticism from letting her go. At this point, I don't know that she's got anything left to lose. She was screwed by CBS. Their editing, they tried to make her look good and failed. She went on Charlemagne the God, assuming this was going to be a friendly interview, and she completely botched that.
How bad was that in your estimation?
Oh, the Charlemagne the God
Yes.
interview was really bad. That because that was her key demographic. That was who she wants to woo. She's doing really well with African American women, but she is losing African American men at an
Bleeding.
astounding rate. And this was her chance to reach out. And African American men, it backfired. They're now more likely to vote for Trump because they don't believe a word she says.
Agreed with that, and very interesting. I'd like your comment, and so would our listeners. Um, I saw this YouTube video show. A guy I like, an Italian guy, his name escapes me. Really great guy. I like him a lot. And he was doing an analysis about about the black vote, and he had a CNN clip, and he goes, stop the tape, and I'm thinking to myself, why? And then he had Obama, like 81% of the black vote, then Hillary less, and his analysis was Obama's the one that started it. Yes, I got you. Kamala's, doubled down on it or is bleeding even more. But it's really interesting because a lot of black people are not that big of fans of Obama. He's when the bleeding started. Now it's
Yeah,
now it's a dike is blowing up. I get it,
right.
but yeah, no, it
Yes,
was a
no, he did.
slip.
Yeah, he did start the exodus of black males in particular from the Democratic Party. And in fact, black males have been all over social media since Obama went on the campaign trail for Harris, essentially taking him to task, going, how dare you say we should vote for her just because she's black? The Democrats haven't done anything for the African American community, and they're tired of it. This is what they keep saying over and over again. You know, you can only support somebody without it being reciprocal for so long.
I think I understand your analysis, and you are 100% correct. I think it's almost more um, emotional. I think it's about both Clinton and Obama being relics of the past. His shtick might have worked 15 years ago. It's just outdated. First of all, the concept of all black people being the same is
Is
gotten to the point.
ridiculous.
Just like
Yeah.
yes, it's offensive. So, but 15 years ago, it wasn't all that offensive. Just like fooling around with women wasn't all that offensive 25 years ago. Now it is. I think they're both relics of the past. Do you think I'm off base with that?
No, I think they are relics of the past, but I think it's even more than that because, again, Obama is saying that African Americans should support Kamala just because she's African American. But who is saying this? This is a guy with a white mother who lived in Hawaii, who, never did anything before entering politics. So, and now he's a billionaire. And it's like, well, you don't have anything to do with our community. And they're saying the same thing about Harris. But it also goes back to Hillary Clinton in 2016 when Michelle Obama was saying, well, if you're a woman, you need to support Hillary because she's a woman. You're not being true to yourself, I believe is what she said. And even then, voters went, really? So if we voted for your husband over her like we did in the primaries, we weren't being true to ourselves. If people are
Yeah.
starting to
Again, I
see
get to the
through
point
this
of
bullshit.
I get to the. I agree with you, but I have to reflect on the point that I think it's also emotional in the cool factor. Obama's just not cool. And Clinton, they were both rock stars. They're done. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's over.
Yes.
In fact, Trump is the cool guy. He's got the street cred. He's ghetto. These guys are jokes, including Obama. He's not cool anymore. He's been irrelevant for 10 years in terms of resonating with any kind of black community. He's so far. He's on Martha's Vineyard. How white can you get?
Well, Obama became irrelevant in 2016 when he was on the campaign trail for Hillary Clinton, and his whole pitch to voters, not just African American, but to all voters, was that if we voted for Donald Trump, it was going to destroy his legacy.
Yeah, I
And
love that. Not selfish
and
at all. No.
right. And Americans overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So that basically told Obama, all right, you know what? We don't care about your legacy. Your legacy didn't help us. You're
And you know
irrelevant
something
now.
though, but sometimes you get lucky in life. Obama, something. He was a post rock star. He was never that popular while he was president. He was effing lucky to run against McCain with the financial crisis, and then Romney who effed it up. Okay, Romney, it was his to lose, and he ran with it and lost. So I really no. Clinton was a rock star. He had
Yes.
true magnetism and a Obama. Sometimes you're in the right place, and you know something. I had someone tell me this. Basically, sometimes you can be at the right place at the right time and think you're a genius. Guess what? You're not. Just take the ball and run with it. And thank God that you were there at the right place. And I think that's true with him. But we now remember about his administration. They had cash for clunkers. Okay. Now it's morphed with Kamala, the cash for blacks. Talk about being, and also not even cash, but cash slash weed for blacks. Like that's not racist. Like that's not pandering.
Well,
I mean,
it's certainly pandering. She came out and she said she wants to give African American men money for homes and money for businesses. And now, as soon as she said that, legal scholars on both sides of the aisle came out and went, yeah, she can't do that. It's unconstitutional because she would be discriminating against
no,
other groups. So
the
this
whole.
is
Oh, but it's. Doesn't you think the bigger picture? We talked about the betting odds. She's getting desperate. Those are acts of desperation, even for a moron like her. It's not thought through. It's not double checked. It's throwing shit against the wall. Am I not correct?
well, you are correct that it's throwing shit against the wall, but I don't know that it's coming from a place of desperation. And she is in a place of desperation. I think this is just part of the Democratic playbook. They've been doing this with student loan forgiveness, trying to buy young votes. Every time they need a specific group, they come up with some program to try to tell them, oh, we're going to put money in your pockets. This is just what they do.
It's called bribery. It started
Yes.
with Obama phones. I do have to say that this is a new level of ridiculousness and desperation and pandering, and I can go on, but I won't. So, and I think it will totally backfire if she's going on Brett Hume tonight, which also is
Brett Bear.
reflective of being Brett Bear. I'm sorry, Brett Bear. Confusing the two. I like
Yes.
Brett Hume. He's excellent. But anyway, I think that's also desperate because if you can't do Charlemagne the God, can't do The View, can't do a edited and touched up CBS interview, how's she going to get through a Fox interview? Not that Brett Bear is some kind of tiger. He's not. Pretty vanilla. I actually find him boring. But he's going to ask real questions.
He's going to
And he
ask
might ask, how are you going to pay for this crap?
Brett, he's going to ask real questions. He's going to follow up on his questions when she tries to evade answering them. And most importantly, even though this is going to be recorded, it is going to be recorded as though it were live, the same way we do this podcast. They're not editing it. It's going to be recorded at 5 o'clock. The recording will end about 5:30. They will rush it over to the control room, and it's going to run at 6.
Then why is she doing it? I
I
know you can talk about independence.
I
I'm
think
not
she's
really completely on that. I think it's desperation.
I think she's between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
And I honestly do believe that she is completely oblivious to how badly she's performing in these. I think she
God, you have to be
actually
on
thinks
acid.
she well, either that or
No, I'm serious. I mean, not
she's
you. I'm
caught
saying that.
whatever Biden did.
God, I mean, it's this could. I don't know. We're gonna put the cart before the horse. This could be must see TV. I mean, if you can't get, it's like I don't know, like a fifth grade interview when you're on the View because that's their intelligence, and you f that one up. I don't know how you. I don't know who advised her. Maybe they said we have no choice. I don't know.
I
Maybe
think
they
that
thought it's hubris that they're saying, yeah, we'll get on Fox, we'll crush it, reset the narrative. That's probably what happened. So
it
you think?
could be. I mean, I've worked on a number of political campaigns, and to be perfectly honest, every campaign, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, every campaign has a large element of narcissism to it. And there is a certain amount of self delusion, because you do have to believe, no matter what else is going on, that you can still win this. And even though it looks ridiculous from the outside, you can't actually run a campaign without that. Because if you've already decided, oh, that's it, I'm going to lose, then it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy.
True. Yes. Well, it'll be interesting to see that. It is really interesting. At Portnoy, he does a podcast about sports. I thought it was really interesting. He posted and he says, I really do stick to sports, but I'm really pissed off because this person is the dumbest MF he has ever seen. And I have to believe, no, I really agree with that. I'm dead serious. I am actually aghast by, I don't know how she went to law school. She is one of the dumbest people I have ever heard in my life. And I'm
Well,
talking not like people on the air. I'm talking about people I've actually
yes.
of a professional caliber. She is like at best a C, at best.
I mean, getting into law school isn't the
Oh
end
God,
all and be all. There's,
I know that.
I know a lot of lawyers who, don't have a lot on the ball, but I'm related to some of them. But
Brutal.
I think honestly, I think they managed again because they were so focused on hiding how bad Joe was that I don't think most of the Democrats realized just how stupid she was
You know something? Wait,
until
I have to interject. That is
go
the
ahead.
greatest. I know it sounds like nothing, but it's everything. That could have been, in a nutshell, what's going on. That they had Bernie and they thought that was so bad that they lost sight of how that is. I think it's spot on. It sounds like a minor observation, but I'm not so sure it is.
Well, I mean, take a look at some of the interviews she's done. Uh, and I'm referring specifically to Oprah Winfrey, to the National Association of Black Journalists. Take a look at the looks on the faces of the people interviewing her. These were people in her corner, and they were suddenly realizing that there was nobody home.
Those, the old adage, a picture speaks louder than words. That was Oprah's. You take an opening shot when she's hugging her to the end, which her jaws drop. I mean, you can't hide human emotion. And then the two African Americans, three of them actually, at the end, they're looking at each other like, "What the hell happened?"
Yes, it's like
You can't fake it. It's just true.
this was, I believe, the first time that these folks realized just how bad a horse they backed. And they could not hide the shock on their faces. And I
That is
think
100.
that's what's happening to the American voter every time Harris does a new interview.
Okay, but we left off last Wednesday. It was, you said a toss up. I agree. We talked about the momentum. I think it was Harris up like two, betting odds even. How does it? Let's talk about betting odds. Almost double. Well, basically, yeah, definitely double digit, approaching 15 to 20%. And even at NBC News, he's up two. I mean, that's a week, Mister
Yeah, it,
Lotkin, Doctor. That's a week. It's not
she
6 months.
she went on this media blitz because she thought it was going to stop people from criticizing her that she hasn't done a press conference, which by the way she still has not done an actual press conference. She hadn't been doing interviews. She was getting a lot of flack for that, even from within the party. And I think a big part of it is, let's face it, the media has been propping her up. And when they started complaining that she wasn't giving them interviews, she started saying, well, you know what? We can't afford to lose the media. We have to give in to this. And
Yep, I agree.
I don't believe that any of her handlers, any of the Democratic Party, any of the media people truly understood how unprepared she was for these interviews.
100% spot on, Dr. Lotkin. Definitely, definitely, definitely. This is their toughest interview. Brett Baer, I I still am a little surprised that she's doing it. Why not choose a happy medium like a I don't know NBC or Lester Holt? I know she did it one before. That's a long time ago. This is going into the line. I mean, again, it's Brett Baer. I mean, not my favorite, but it's still going to be real.
It is going to be real, and I think that's actually why she's doing it. Do I think she'll perform well? No, but she has been taking a lot of criticism about the fact that all of these interviews have been with friendly journalists, folks who would be willing to, toss her softballs. She's taking a lot of flack from the fact that she is the first presidential candidate to turn down an interview request from Time magazine. And I think Time would have been more friendly to her than Brett
More
Baer
Brett,
will be.
it would have been a joke. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Now I'm going to say this is the fork in the road. Remember Johnny Carson? Of course you do. I believe she gets through this, does okay. She lives for another. I think it's actually do or die. How do you like that? I know I'm being dramatic, but I really do believe that. She F's this up, it could be game over.
It could be, it depends on what happens after. The CBS debacle was horrific for her, and social media went nuts over it. Same thing with the podcast she did, Call Her Daddy. The
Oh
same thing
God.
with her Charlemagne the God, interview. If the Fox interview goes viral and her supporters actually see it and have to try to defend her performance, it's game over. If
Well
how
said, Dr. Lopkin. Agreed. I was thinking, yeah, because a lot of her constituency will not tune into Fox because they
right.
have an aversion to it. But it will. The only thing I would contest with you, Dr. Lopkin, is it will go viral and it will be seen. I think that's a given.
Oh, I think the odds certainly are that it will. But I think the interview itself, once when it's broadcast, the effect is going to be minimal. It's the blowback after it goes viral that's going to kill her.
Agreed, 100%. Now, do you think Brett Baer will ask about the plagiarism? And let me explain that to our listeners that the lowest level, maybe sixth grade, of people doing reports, that a Wikipedia is not what is called a reliable. It's basically you get an F. Where did she plagiarize her amazing book from? Wikipedia. Yikes. Brutal.
Yeah, this was, I mean,
Oh my God.
it's bad enough that she
Brutal.
plagiarized in the first place.
Okay.
And, I will say again, we talked briefly about my book earlier, and this was a chapter I had done, but I have, two books out, so I can attest it is a lot of work writing a book. And part of it is making sure that you have not taken anybody's ideas. Because let's face it, when you're doing research for a book, you read a lot, you get a lot, and it is possible for you to, repeat something, not realizing what you did. It. Now, in her case, she actually pulled entire Wikipedia articles, which,
I'm
it's
sorry, it's brain down. So
yeah,
it's no, no. You're
it's
talking about something that's legitimate. You like, in other words, there's a situation with the Rolling Stones that I don't know, a couple of 10 albums ago, whatever. Who cares?
no,
They had something in their head. So, and it happened with George Harrison. That's a
right.
Wikipedia. That's just
But no.
moronic.
But what I'm saying is, when you go through this process, you make sure that you are not stealing ideas. So the
My God.
idea that an entire Wikipedia entry could end up in her book, not get caught by her, not get caught by her editor, is ludicrous. She
Well, she's
had
been
to
doing that her
know.
whole life. She's never done any. She likes to use, we got to do the hard work. You know what that's called? Projecting. Because you're not
Yes.
doing, she's never done any work. She's always gotten
No, and
through by her good looks, her giggling, and her connections. literally and figuratively. How do you
Yes,
like that?
and her own staff has publicly said that she refuses to put the work in. So, yes, she needed a couple more pages in her book. Well, let's just add a Wikipedia article in there.
I I wonder if it's like you're a little younger than me, that it's like Wings to Adventure, like sixth grade, when it's like her book. I wonder if it's at the level of like see, flip, run, flip, run. Imagine her right sharing her great knowledge and wisdom to the world. Oh my God. Well, anyway, that's something a book I'll be never reading. Um, Now it also is looking at. I like sometimes Trump can be a dork. Many times he can. He's his own entity. But I like the way he's trolling her. He's going to Philly and working at a McDonald's. I'm sorry, I think that's brilliant. I know the liberal media, who gives a shit what they say, because I don't think they're resonating anymore. And CNN kind of is, but certainly not MSNBC. They'll say he's unhinged. I think it's a great way to troll her because it's again she's like her boss. She is a huge fabricator slash liar. She never worked at McDonald's. Let's just cut the shit.
No,
Never.
she has been lying about so much of her background. And
Middle
yeah,
class.
it is great that Trump is calling her out on it. But you mentioned about the mainstream media and how they're reacting to this. It's interesting because a Gallup poll just came out, and Gallup found that Americans' trust in the media is at an all-time low.
And declining, yes.
Yes, and declining. So, yes, they've shown themselves to be incredibly partisan. And the basic problem is, yes, there used to be partisan shows with political pundits, and where
Yes.
they would talk about, and like this show when we do analysis and offer opinion. But we never had so many quote unquote reporters who were supposed to be reporting the news be this bias. And, the reporters should be saying, yes, and Donald Trump is going to be working the fry-later at McDonald's this weekend. This is how he's trying to gain attention. Period. End
Fine.
of story.
No, they'll
But
say he's unhinged. But even you look at Martha Raddatz, talk about she was crying in 2016 at ABC. They should just have their license revoked from what's his name, the guy Stephanopoulos,
yes,
a political hack, the debate totally out of control. And then Martha Raddatz, she was crying in 2016 when Trump won. She basically said to J.D. Vance, by the way, he's an up and coming rock star, not like a rock
no.
star like Obama and Clinton. Martha, what are you talking about? You're saying that only 3 apartment buildings in America are overrun by Venezuelan gangs? That
Yeah,
blew up
I
in her face.
I
That is
loved
like
Vance
bitch slap.
handled that brilliantly by turning it around. It's like, did you hear what you just said? Like
She got
it.
humiliated.
Yes, it
You agree?
shouldn't matter how many apartment buildings are being taken over by Venezuelan gangs. The fact that even one is being taken over, never mind 3 of them in the same city, this is a problem. And the fact that the media is trying to, wish it away is
What do you
absolutely
think?
ridiculous. And I
What
found
is
it absolutely hysterical. They're, talking about how the media has been conducting itself. There was an incredibly anti Semitic writer that was interviewed by CBS, and the reporter actually did his job. He went after him, very tough. He was a very tough interview. And CBS apologized for the interview and said it didn't live up to their standards. Well, CBS was just called out on this behavior by, of all people, Don Lemon.
Oh God, that's when you've reached rock bottom.
Right. It's like,
Unbelievable. The boy genius
yeah,
himself.
how bad do you have to be doing when Don Lemon went, well, no, now you've gone too far.
That's when what you've called the proverbial shark, no question about it. Um, I think who's someone who's kind of crossing the shark is Waltz. One of the worst picks. I think it was McGovern picked someone, Eagleton, who actually had to stay at a mental hospital and had to be no seriously and was replaced. Uh, Waltz basically with the whole shotgun thing, which was had memes all over the internet and social media, and then there's a little bit of I won't say buzz, a little bit of discussion, inferences that maybe his tenure as a teacher, an outstanding teacher, maybe wasn't as kosher as he suggests. Have you heard anything to that?
I have. There are a number of people who are coming out and claiming that he had been abusing his students sexually.
Yes,
And there has not been any evidence put forward, but the allegations do seem to be growing. Now, as you keep reminding me, I'm a little younger than you are, so I don't actually remember Eagleton.
I
But
do.
he actually does remind me of another vice presidential candidate. He reminds me
Quail.
of James Stockton.
Oh, yes, yes.
For our listeners that are not familiar with this name, James Stockton was the vice presidential candidate who ran with Ross Perot.
Hmm.
And he had an absolutely brilliant moment at the vice presidential debate when he took his hearing aid out so he didn't have to hear the other candidates babbling.
No, yeah, no. Waltz was again. You talk about judgment, and we talked about the value and the impact of a VP. Blah blah. I think this one has might have cost Harris the election. How do you like that? I'll go out on a limb and say that because it's such a razor thin election. The debate was an abject disaster. Okay. Everything he does with the shotgun, I know how to operate a shotgun better than him. And I don't think I've ever fired one. I could just intuitively figure it out. The guy is an absolute moron. And if it does come out that he's even if he's had consensual, and that doesn't really apply when you're talking about underage, non-forcible
Yeah.
relationships with young people, it's called check, please.
Oh,
And that was suggested that that's one of among many of the reasons he went to so many trips to China because they have basically very gray laws and back then about underage encounters.
yeah, there is a lot that's coming out about his past that, quite frankly, any presidential candidate should have vetted. But there is now information coming out about why it might not have. And now I'm a little embarrassed because I'm blanking on the guy's name. But the from Pennsylvania, who Harris was looking at as vice president.
Epstein, not
Uh,
Epstein.
no,
Shapiro.
yes, Shapiro.
Shapiro.
There is now stories being leaked that Harris didn't dismiss Shapiro as vice president for anti Semitism or any reasons like that. Shapiro told her to go pound sand. She was
Wow, I didn't know
apparent.
that.
Well, again, this is just starting to come out. There are people saying, no, he told her he would not be her VP. And at the last minute, she suddenly had to find another candidate
That
and
makes
went
sense now.
with Waltz without completely vetting him.
Why did Shapiro say later, dude, or do that?
Well, realistically, if you have any political
Which
aspirations
he has
at
tons.
all, right, would you really want to be tied to a Harris ticket?
I'll pass on that.
Yeah,
I have no
and quite
political future, and I wouldn't. How do you
right.
like that?
And on top of that, as a Jewish man, she has done nothing to support Israel. She has supported anti Semitism. She has supported terrorists above Jews. So that's yet another reason why you wouldn't want to be tied to her campaign.
Agreed 100%. And speaking of anti Semitism, Fetterman, and this is not the first time, is now going mano on mano with AOC, another genius, because she was talking about, again, condemning Israel. And he basically came out and said, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. He's actually, after he's recovered from his stroke nicely, unlike Uncle Joe.
Yes, he has been recovering, but I mean, in all fairness, while he was having the stroke, he had more on the ball than AOC. So
Correct.
it's
Well,
taking.
can I make one
Yeah.
suggestion to you at this time? Do you agree with me that Boston University and wherever Kamala got her law degree should be under serious review for their accreditation?
Oh yes,
The
they
most
should
two most
lose.
vacuous people
But
on the planet,
I don't.
and I cannot explain it.
I don't know where Harris went to law school, but Boston University, AOC is not the only mental midget that has come out of Boston University.
Howard Stern.
Did Howard Stern come out of there?
Yes,
That I did
yes,
not
he
know.
did.
I'm
Yes, he did.
actually referring to the fact that Boston University was the birthplace of DEI, and this is where the movement started. This is and these folks are still clinging to it. They have a professor there who actually wrote the book that started the whole movement, and he's still a professor there. He's still teaching students, and this is not what we are teaching. We are literally teaching students that, oh, it's not their fault. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to take responsibility. It's society's fault that they can't succeed. Well, guess what? That is an insult to every successful African American, every successful Hispanic person, every successful Asian person, because all of these folks came out with these same challenges against them and managed to overcome it.
Well, they've even gone to the other extreme. I mean, Ivy League, which Boston University is certainly not a part of, but the Ivy League threw out SATs in an effort to beat DEI, and the results speak for themselves. But also quite interesting, they have a clip of Mamala or Kamala having a little speech on that she doesn't think it should be Columbus Day, but Indigenous people. Which is okay, whatever. But that's not the real issue. Is in the speech she basically does a whole thing about condemning white Europeans on all the horrific things that it doesn't go well. It doesn't look. It's not a good look. Let's just leave it at
It's
that.
not a good look, and once again, it shows her ignorance.
Moron.
If she wants to promote Indigenous Persons Day, fine, give it its own holiday, not the same date as Columbus Day. We have Columbus Day for a reason, and all of these woke people are probably ignorant of the actual story behind Columbus Day, which is the worst lynching in American history, was that of 11 Italian men. And after this came out, after all of the outrage, Columbus Day was created to celebrate Italian heritage as almost a mea culpa for this massive lynching, which again, there's never been a larger lynching in American history than this. It was called Columbus Day simply because Columbus was the best known Italian at the time. So you're
Well,
talking.
I'm sure it's going to play. It's going to play well in South Philly and parts of New York. I'm sure, and just not play well with just the average American who basically is sick of the whole woke thing. But what is playing well, isn't it, Dr. Lotkin? Is SNL. I never thought it would happen. It's actually after 20 years of being negative vanilla. How do you like that? I'll come up with a new vernacular. It's actually funny for 2 weeks. And what does it mean? That's the important thing, Dr. Lotkin. Who cares if it's funny or not? But why are they taking off the gloves, Dr. Lotkin?
Yeah,
after years of
it is amazing after years of going after Trump, and I mean they're still going after Trump, but they are making Biden Harris look absolutely ridiculous. And it is a good question. I don't have an answer for it, but what does it mean for the Democratic Party when they've lost SNL? This has
it's like this. No, it's actually like Cronkite in 1966 saying we've just no, I'm sorry, no, it's like LBJ when he was watching Walter Cronkite. Sorry, I got it asked backwards. Says, "Well, we're screwed. We just lost Cronkite." That's about pretty close to
it,
it.
it really is. I mean, this has been a show that has promoted Democratic misinformation going back to the Obama years when, so many people to this day think Sarah Palin actually said, "Oh, I can see Alaska from my house," which she never said. This was an SNL skit. Tina Fey said it. But
Yeah,
they have
it's
been going after the Republicans for so long and giving a pass to especially Biden, who Lord knows he's given them so much ammunition. Hillary Clinton provided so much ammunition that they just ignored because they couldn't get out of the way of their own political bias. And now they finally went, "Oh, you know what? And honestly, I think it has to do with the ratings. I think the fact of the matter is they looked at the ratings and went, we've been doing this for so long, people are not watching us anymore. And
I think you're 100% correct.
this being the 50th anniversary of the show, there were a lot of there was a lot of speculation that NBC was going to drag SNL on long enough to hit that 50th anniversary and then cancel it because it had been doing so badly. I think they finally just went, "You know what? If we want to stay relevant, we've actually got to be funny and we've got to go after everybody."
Well said. Well, I'd like to conclude on your overall assessment. And we did this last week, but it's been a week and it's been a week of a lot of activity. Where do you see the race now, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. I think the race has turned around. I still think it's close, but
Yes, it is close.
I think it's much harder for Harris to pull this out now. I mean, certainly in the betting odds, Trump has the edge, and there's a lot of folks who are looking at this saying the the betting platforms are actually more accurate
Yes, they are.
than the polls because we've heard pollsters say for quite a while Trump supporters and Republicans in general are not answering their questions, they're not answering the polls. But even more important, the betting odds actually have people putting skin in the game.
Exactly.
You're actually betting money. You can tell a pollster anything. It doesn't mean you're actually going to follow through. But if you're betting money that Trump is going to win, you're not going to then turn around and vote for Harris or vice versa.
100%. It's the whole thing of like internal versus external polls. People would think, oh, internal, they're going to be more biased. No, you're paying people to tell you something. You better be accurate, or guess what? As Trump would say, you're fired. I think it's been a pivotal week. How do you like that? Because this is not just, oh, a poll here, a poll there. It's been a seismic shift. And I will go one step further. I actually do believe Brett Baer is do or die.
I think it could be. I think it's going to depend on how hard he goes at her.
I think, you know what? I believe that he has to because his credibility's on the line. Um, just like the Fox Friends, whatever you want to call it, reacted to Megyn Kelly, what with 2016, basically dismantling her career until her recent resurrection. I think he's very cognizant. Yes, he can. He's not going to be a bully. He's not going to be over the top, but he's going to be real. And I don't know if she can handle that.
I don't think she can.
We will see. It'll be food for thought and discussion for next week. Congratulations on your book, and our listeners can be a part of the show, can't they?
Yes, they can. Go to xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking. You can also message us through the Carnivore Radio Facebook page. And of course, you can hear every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I thank you, Dr. Lopkin, and congratulations once again on your book.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.